cold out here and I feel lonely. Oh no, the time can move so slowly. And in the distance I hear voices. Are they real or are they in my head? I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick. And I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick. And now I feel alive. Feel alive. Feel alive. Feel alive. And now I feel alive. So many times they try to change me, and every time it drives me crazy. And all the good times we had saved me. Are they real or are they in my head? I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick. And I'm lovesick. You got me lovesick. And now I feel alive. Feel alive. Feel alive. Feel alive. And now I feel alive.
Today, we get ready to see some open wheel action in the Pacific Northwest. Today, it's the IndyCar Open Series for the Euro SOF as we visit a difficult track. It's Portland International Raceway that plays host to today's round, 8 weeks into the season, as we get ready for today's coverage, brought to you by Velocity Online Racing for the iRacing IndyCar community. Please consider supporting our fundraiser. Donate on GoFundMe. I'm Justin Prince, alongside me is Julien Altena for tonight's coverage, using cameras provided by Julien Altena for Onboard. He is the producer as well. The track cams are by trackcams22.com. Tonight's going to be an interesting night, to say the very least, as these competitors race at Portland. Many were expecting weather. Guess what? It stayed dry.
Yeah, and that, whether it rains or not, the threat of rain sometimes has a bigger effect than the actual moisture falling itself. I wonder how that has changed preparations throughout this week of IndyCar racing here at Portland this week. How much practice driving have these guys done in the wet compared to how much they've done in the dry? How much do they know about what the strategy should be in a dry race? Because, of course, you will have to use 2 tyre compounds if it stays dry for the entirety. So the prospect of rain sometimes is almost as big of a factor of the actual water itself.
Absolutely, and it's going to become an intriguing race in particular if it does come in. It's currently looking to be 0%, but we've seen wild swings before when it comes to the sim. You never know when it comes to this part of the U.S. But drivers already took part in qualifying for today. We have a few stacked competitors that look to join this 2946 SOF tonight. The one you're looking at now is one of those names that you're going to have to expect to be strong tonight. Peter Berryman making an appearance in this series tonight. Alongside him, Alexander Wenzel. The difference for the pole, half a second. Row number 2, that's where you'll find one of the Nexus machines, Alain Berteau, with Roden Eptink down in the 4th position today. Eddie Kirkenbauer makes an appearance in this series today alongside the Euro points leader, Jacob Reed. Rounding up the top 8 positions, Kenneth Smith alongside Micah Mixer, who goes with the white and blue look today. Edison Toole started 9th, Joseph Harkers in 10th.
Yep, just outside the top 10, Ty Keeler, 3rd place in the Euro SOF points, alongside Anthony Divarez, who is on row 6. A little bit of a further down qualifying for Juan Luis Alfaro, who starts from all the way down 13th, alongside Andrei Buxi on row 7. Same for Fabian Yarashevsky, who starts from 15th place in front of Samuel Wilsdud in 16th. Jussi Nieminen in 17th place is ahead of Dakota Brothers, rounding out the top 9, and then Volker Ulrich and Jace Denmark rounding out the top 20.
Only 2 air drivers in the field today. That is Andreas Mikkelsen. You also have Mikhail Miniak, the Frenchman, who was the only person in the field not to set a qualifying time today. So as we get set to go with it, starting with the dry, there are multiple tire compounds. We'll take a look at that in a moment here. Keep in mind, about a 2/3 mix of drivers on the hards. A few are on the alternate tire here to begin things off today. Expecting, of course, drivers to eventually have to switch because that is part of the requirements. 1 point for these competitors. But that in mind here, Ewan, if you're some of the top drivers, you have to start scoring points. Ty Quibble, one of those that you have to put a star next to. 3rd in the overall standings and 3rd in the Euro SOF standings. Jacob Reed leading them.
Yeah, indeed. Jacob Reed, by the way, starting from 6th place, as we just saw in that grid there. So, again, in a solid position to hopefully pick up some solid points at Portland tonight.
Pace car dropping off. We're happy to have you with us here on Velocity Online Racing. Tonight's coverage of the Euro SOF for IndyCar action. Off and away goes Berryman. The Berryman runs away from the pack. It's 4 wide for 2nd. Wenzel sees Reed pass them all on the outside. Berteau cuts to the curbing, but no slowdown. Berteau now in the battle for 2nd. Reed on the outside.
Well, it's certainly true that the front straight is wider than any other point on this racetrack. Oh, and off the road in the meantime. And into the wall indeed. Coming out of turn 4 into 4A. A car in the wall. Looks like Roden Eptink, who's the one who went straight off the road. Alexander Wetzel is the one who's lost a couple of positions here. And as you say, Jacob Reed was the one steaming through in that number 2 to move up into 2nd position. What a great start from Jacob Reed, and what a chaotic start for those guys fighting for 2nd.
Reed, though, has one big challenge. You see where the leader dot may be up in the little viewpoints. That's because he's already pulled away with that fight by almost 3 seconds on lap 1. Kirkenbauer Monso is in the pack here, but I think that says a lot with what you're seeing on the margin here with what we were talking about before today with the one machine in the field. Some of the others looking to set up passes, taking their time to set things up, though.
Well, it sometimes does take a little while. I mean, early on is your time to strike, really, because after that, it can get much more difficult to overtake as we go on with Kenneth Smith back in the pack. The real guys who we need to see moving up places here early on are the likes of Alain Berteau and Micah Mixer, who's also on the red stripe tyres early on. They have got to get out of traffic, to my mind, very, very quickly. Otherwise, this strategy of going for the reds in the first stint, which is not an inherently bad strategy, but they do need to make sure they make some early progress.
I think so, and right now we're seeing a few of the drivers just taking their time to at least get the tire pressures up before they start pouncing. Berteau, Amonsto staying in this train, and we've seen the last road course in this series when these drivers get fairly well connected if you went to the respective draft packs. It was, in a lot of cases, a strategy game on when you were using the button to push to pass or defend, or in many of the cases, like you see here, some drivers just take the opportunity to try and sprint to the next pack before things got too far out.
Yeah, oh dear, very wide through turn number 2. This very strange chicane almost in many ways through there. Nimmonen losing a place to Buxi there in 17th position. Just in behind them, next in line, Meko Minick rather, in 19th place. Only a couple of drivers down in pit lane at the moment after the opening couple of laps, and they're I'd say off the end of the screen there, down below the top 18. But into the final corners again. Breteau still stuck behind Jacob Reed, who's not slow by any means, but he is losing time to Berryman, who is getting an increasing lead because of this battle here for second. Now Breteau uses some push to pass to get down the inside.
Lets him on through, says, you know what, if you want the run, I'll let you set it up. Not going to push the issue. And think about it big picture, because here's the thing. You have a driver on the reds versus those on the hard-walled white tires. So why not just let by the difference on strategy go through when you know you're going to have the chance to catch them on the back end later?
Well, indeed. It's all about strategy, these races, as always, as Peter Berryman really gets out to a big lead here. Breteau might be able to start bringing that down a little bit. He's using a bit of push to pass to try and do that, but this is the stage of the race where he really has to, because Berryman's going to be on the more favourable tyres later on in the race, so he's got such an advantage over the rest of the field. Reed is now with lots more drivers who are sort of on his strategy, really. Weitzel and Kirchenbauer to name two. We'll have to see what Micah Mixer can do in this group on those red stripe tyres. Also in that same situation of needing to make some early progress here, as down the inside goes Kenneth Smith on Ty Keeler, who rather lets that go into 8th place.
Attack wheel going the wrong way, I think, early on, potentially in a couple of those battles. We're still keeping on some of the votives in this pack up ahead of them. Wenzel's doing a solid job maintaining some positions, but lost a couple here on the hards. You see the votive machine, though, just taking its time. Has been running a fair amount of different leagues as of late. Indy has, experimenting a bit with the stock cars a little bit in series like Mystic Racing League, trying to expand his reach. But so far, hasn't been able to pick up any spots at all here. You see he's having to back up his corners a lot more than some of those in front of him to set up for some of these areas.
It's remarkable as well how close you can stay actually through that final chicane, really, the sweepers through turn 10 and 11, because the dirty air that you're giving off from the front there is, surely should have an effect on Kirchenbauer just in behind, but it didn't really on the way through the final turns there. But now we're settling in to this race, considering 5 laps are gone. I think we are starting to see the more difficult side of this circuit, which is in overtaking, where there's no tyre difference. It can be tricky from time to time.
I was just looking into what happened in the previous run through with the American SOF that happened last night. They actually did have the rain fall at one point and stay during the race, comparative to what we're seeing here, where Jaden Munoz was the one who came out on top. That was where only 3 drivers in the end finished on the lead lap in dominant fashion. Berryman, an iRacing world champion, is on a similar pace, representing Apex Racing on his machine, Apex Sim Racing, should say. But of course, it's a part of the multiple different drivers that have made recent moves, Ewan, I think you can argue, as we take a look at one of the other battles, because he just recently, in the past couple weeks, joined Nova Legio Racing. That's a new team.
Yeah, new team. And some of his former Apex teammates, by the way, had gone over there. I think Johan Harf is one of them from memory. Maybe there's some more as well. But yeah, it's very much a new team, very much made up of drivers really without a team, of which there are quite a few in sim racing at the moment, especially at that real top level, the World Championship level, which Peter Berryman is obviously operating at. And so yeah, no surprise that he's gone over there, and you can just see what we're seeing already here tonight. Just the speed that he has here. He's matching the driver directly behind him in second there, despite the fact he's on a less favourable tyre compound at the moment. He's absolutely dominating this race, and you mentioned that race with only 3 drivers on the lead lap. I don't think he's quite going to manage that here at Portland today, especially if it stays dry. But he really might get a long way through this field and win by a big margin the way this is going at the moment.
Meanwhile, Denmark, who is an American at least in terms of sim registration, trying to battle out with De Vries amongst those in 13th. These drivers running 101s, 102s, give or take, compared to the leaders' 59-second lap times. And it's a bit of a challenging racetrack, I will say, here at Portland, because it's a fun one, absolutely, but it's still with not too much space per se to make sure you don't go off the pavement. In so many areas where if you send it in wrong, we've already seen in real life drivers get sent all the way to the tire barriers far at the end of the grass here. It's so easy to make a huge mistake and lose so many points on the table.
Yeah, I find it a fascinating racetrack, really, because in some places the walls are really quite close and the track's really quite wide. You can see through here in the chicane as well. Really quite wide, but in other places you can very easily get off in the grass and go off the racetrack. This is the start, and say on the front straight, it's probably the widest point on this racetrack anywhere around. And when the green flag drops here, watch for Jacob Reed, which will be closest to our cameras here on the right hand side as we look at it, left hand side of the road. Look at him in the yellow there, right up next to the wall. Brave that he would think there was space for that, to be fair, but round the outside and uses the wideness of the chicane there to get alongside, and then he has to hold off side by side. A good run around the outside eventually, and a bit of bravery again here on the outside gets him through. F-Tink was trying to do exactly the same, by the way, here on the outside of 4 and 4A, and then into 5, and he couldn't do it. This is the part we didn't see, though, because F-Tink was off the road, down the inside, coming to the left-hander then at turn 6, which switches you back round again, and you really do want to be ahead by this point, because then you get to a very sharp but very wide hairpin at turn 7. Reed made the pass at the absolute right moment. This is what F-Tink was trying to do, but he got a little bit too wide, and as you say, once you clip that grass, you are going into the wall, even though the tyre barrier is actually quite a long way from the racetrack.
See, all the way down and breaking the suspension. That's why he's one of currently just himself, in fact, out of the race. Dakota Brothers actually also just recently pulled out with similar issues, but everyone else keeps on going for the time being. So as we continue on with the action here, Berryman so far has led all the laps. The gap is now near 7 seconds, running the only laps in the 59-second bracket. And as he is one of those that represents the several countries of the world, remember, these drivers race from multiple different areas, and racing in general on the sim can go multiple different places, like the Global IndyCar Challenge for 2026 that begins on August 17th at Zandvoort, with open setup competition broadcasting on the Ford channel. This league is perfect for those wanting to bring your own setups. Races are held bi-weekly on Monday evenings, European hours. 7 p.m. UK time is the start for that series. You see that a part of the schedule, in fact, coming up in the Euro Series, a different series going on tomorrow, for example, in Magello. You have NXT that gets a turn here at Portland on the network on the 8th. And don't forget, you have the SOF that goes to Canada after this next week when it comes to the Open Series. All lean into a busy stretch in a couple weeks from now. That being said here, Ewan, I was about to say, with the racing going on right now, it's still the choo-choo train right behind Reed. Here's Kirkenbauer, who in that league race mentioned last night just so happened to win by 2 1/1000ths of a second.
Yeah, and you know, we've seen time and time again in this series as well, this season, what a strong driver Indy Kirkenbauer has been. 30 points off the championship lead now as far as the Euro SOF standings are concerned. Anyway, after 7 rounds, Jacob Reed still leading those, but consistent all throughout the season, and looks like another top 5, or at least top 5 speed at the moment for Kirkenbauer, which is good to see early on. And you know, it's not so much of a problem being stuck in this train at the moment. I mean, I think it is for those who are on red stripe tyres, and Micah Mixer can't seem to stay with these guys anymore anyway, so it doesn't matter so much. And I was saying that it's a matter of urgency for Berteau to make his way through, and it's good that he has done now. But for these guys, they're on the same strategy. It's not the most important thing in the world that they are following one another at the moment. From the graphic we saw earlier, I don't think Kirkenbauer's used a single second of push to pass. Certainly hasn't used very much. He's saving that for a little bit later. And well, indeed, he hasn't. He has used some seconds. He's used some there coming onto the front straight, but he certainly hasn't used very much. As long as you're saving that, you're saving your tyres. Maybe thinking about an overcut later, maybe an undercut if you can find some free track space, although that will be quite hard to come by. Then, as I say, I don't think this is the end of the world following somebody who's on your strategy like this, because, as I say, it's relatively hard to overtake round here.
I was going to say, looking at some of the various drivers I noticed on the pylon, I think most people have even used push to pass in a lot of cases. Yemen just used it at the back, but I think a lot of these drivers are keeping it secure. Here's Wilsteed, meanwhile, the 21 machine went off the racetrack, was running down at 17th, just lost more time as a result of that. As some of these competitors, remember, this is one of those types of runs where you have only one split today.
Sorry.
Well,
sorry, it's a replay.
Yeah,
sorry.
Big challenge with the curbing here, Ewan.
Sorry, I thought it was happening to the same drivers again. Sorry, that was a replay of the replay. But yeah, it's the classic mistake, isn't it? Through that final chicane, through the sweepers, as you just run slightly wide through turn 11. There's a strange bit of sort of tarmac initially out there, which makes you think, it's safe to run a little bit wide and use that. But very quickly it switches to grass, and you can go straight on like that, as we saw there, into the final corner.
Yeah, I was going to say, the point being made there, was trying to start at least, was you're going to see the big variances on speed levels. And in fact, Berryman already coming up to lap traffic here into the race. Having to take the outside, nearly up towards the tire barrier, but gets plenty of space to get around the 17 machine. And you're talking about a split difference on iRating, from those who started the race, of 8,600 today, Ewan.
Yeah, it's more than you normally see, that is for sure. But I guess it's a compliment more than anything to Peter Berryman, who's obviously in the number one here today. And we know his credentials. He's been a top driver for a very long time, and I mean, he would have gone into tonight the absolute favourite. When he took the pole position, those credentials would have only gone up, and he's absolutely dominating at the front here at the end of 15 laps as well. Just hasn't put a single foot wrong yet, and just for this little bit of an onboard, you can just see how absolutely perfected each corner is. Control through the high-speed stuff. Such a difficult braking zone, by the way, there in towards the final turn, but absolutely the right line, getting close to the wall. I mean, this is the way to drive this circuit in an IndyCar. It's an absolute exhibition he's putting on at the moment.
Doing so far so good in terms of the racing so far. If you're enjoying Velocity Online Racing's coverage, please press the like and subscribe buttons to help us and the YouTube algorithm today. Right now, a lot more pushes of the button than a little bit earlier, noticing for some. You still see a couple of the air trains like Maniac towards the rear. This is the 15th through 17th group that's at risk getting lapped in the next little bit here. They've stayed well near on top of each other pace-wise, and these drivers, for the most part, have been here on the track most of the European races, SOFs, for the road courses this season, as Wilsteed drops back behind them.
Yeah, it does feel like the field's been slightly different for the road courses compared to the ovals. And as a reminder, we only have one oval left now in the final 5 weeks of the season, with Portland this week. We've already mentioned a trip to Canada next week. We're at the Chicago Street Circuit the week after that, and then Milwaukee for the final oval, and Laguna Seca to end the season. As you can see from the first half schedule, that doesn't really reflect the series season as a whole, which has been very balanced between, on the left-hand side, between ovals and road courses. On the right-hand side, the second half of the season, a few more road courses, certainly more street circuits, which is maybe we're going to see a few more familiar names or indeed repeated names next week and the week after, when we take on 2 street circuits in 2 weeks.
And of course, the Chicago date, when you think about the rear-wheel schedule, kind of takes the place of what is Washington, D.C. in real life, where they're not going to run 147 laps, so 250 miles for that race. That's another talking point for their broadcast, but that's going to be an interestingly long day. I'm curious how Chicago will fare out for a lot of these drivers comparatively, where, of course, in a stock car, a lot of straight lines, but there's a lot to think about for later. Maniac, you're still following with, trying to find his way along the curbing, taking more curb compared to Niemen, who's trying to keep a little bit of a higher arc.
Yeah, interesting to see the different lines here to to maybe try and this is an interesting one in towards the hairpin at turn 7 for the first time really tonight since the opening lap. We've seen a little bit of movement just to try and have a look down the inside, because as I say, it's so inviting, the inside of that hairpin there. It's so wide as you come out of 6th for whatever reason. It really broadens out and it allows you to have a look down the inside, or at least tempts you to do so. Not able to on that occasion. Kirkenbauer has lost a couple of seconds in the last few moments, by the way, and I believe it was through the first chicane, maybe in towards, maybe through the first chicane where there was trouble. The gap was teetering on a second before, where Kirkenbauer was quite nicely staying within range, but what's going to happen out of here? Still looks a little bit slow for whatever reason. Maybe this has just been evolving in the last few moments, but the gap's more than 3 seconds now.
Well, starting to separate, at least in the eyeball test, and then that obviously happened with the slow ups that have now cost him after a cut through in the opening corner. So just like that, as you see the cut through right there, that's where the time went the wrong way.
There we go. So just missed the corner really. Could he have made a bit more of an attempt to make it, because he lost so much time actually. He probably was never going to make it, was he? He just went straight through there. Even if he'd taken a really slow line there, he probably still would have bounced over the curb. Going to view it here. Just doesn't quite turn in there. As you want to basically be getting as close to the wall as possible through that first part, not really focusing on the curb, which you can absolutely drive over, but just try and get as close to the wall as possible. And as soon as he'd missed that target, he wasn't going to be getting the making the corner. As Wilsteed now finally does make that pass up to 16th position here in front of Miniak, and now can go to work on Niemanen, who maybe is feeling the effects of some slightly old red stripe tyres by this point. The difference in compound is starting to switch now.
Yeah, the pace difference right now for some of those on the alternate tires in the 1 minute per toe. For everyone else is in the 101s for the most part. Mixers in the 101.6s last time. The primaries are running similar to that, around 1 minute flats for just about everybody except for a couple outliers, unless you're Peter Berryman, who's only had 0.2 of fall off the entire race. So what I'm trying to say is, one driver is really good on the tire wear, which is what you expect from the elite of the elite. But also, we're starting to really see that crossover you were talking about, right about equal to where if you're compared to the short burst on the first few laps of the Reds.
Yes, an interesting difference as Wilstead has now made 2 places in 2 laps there. Another nice dive down the inside of turn 1. Oh, and a spin for Niemanen in the meantime. Niemanen, after just being passed for 15th place, goes for a spin, or at least a half spin, and maybe that is a sign that those red stripe tyres should be taken off now, because, let's say, the wear is starting to really get on top of him, and the speed of the primaries is now better than that of the reds. I know he's on a tighter line through turn 2 there, and that makes the traction and the exit a little bit different, but nevertheless, that was an unusual spin there really, and probably a sign that he should take those tyres off and take the primaries to the end.
We can also tell you Volker Ulrich just had to come down pit road, but it was not scheduled here, Ewan. It's because he went... Remember that point you talked about? You had to be close to the Armco barrier in turn 1. He hit it.
Yeah, that wasn't a suggestion to go and hit it. But yeah, that's what's happened. Oh, there you go. There's the evidence. The right-hand side of the front wing has come off, which is a telltale sign. He's just trying to get as close as he can. As I say, you're not really worried about the curb there. It's about the wall, and he's sliding a little bit. It looks a little bit out of control, and he just grazes the wall. He's lucky he hasn't done any more suspension damage, really, but it doesn't matter, really. Perhaps he's got a meatball anyway, and he's missing most of his front wing. So that is that. As Micah Mixer comes in, the first scheduled pit stop from the top 10.
Down he goes. He was one of those on the DNF list for the American SOF last night. Course cut for Denmark in the air part of the track. But as you can see, simple stop. Should see 9-10 seconds. Denmark also came down. Mixer at 9, at 10, at 10.8 to fill up the gas tank.
So where is he going to come out? The free track here is really, really crucial. Berryman might be coming up very soon. Is that him gone there? I think it is. So he doesn't need to worry about catching Berryman, I don't think. Although maybe with the new tyres compared to the older ones, of course, for Berryman. But maybe that won't be too much of a factor. I think that's gone about as well as it could have done for Mixer.
Mixer's in the wall. Mixer's sliding off the track into the tire barrier. There goes the 9. He's wrecked for a second SOF race.
Well, I mean, he was in the perfect position, really. He was in the clean air. He was just getting into his work again for the next stint, and you can see the cold tyres coming out of 3 there, and then in towards 4. It just completely loops around on him. Wasn't anywhere near as careful as he should have been by the looks of things on these cold tyres. You can see him step on it out of turn 2 a little bit eagerly, or into 3 rather. This slightly annoying right-hander does this nicely, and then just clips the curb there, slides, and yeah, from that point on, there was nothing seemingly he could have done about the slide then into the next turn, which takes him into the wall.
And away he goes. As a result, Tool is in. Fabian's 7 machine has gone down the pit road. And apparently, Mixer had also put on another set of alternate tires, some people are noting. So there might have been something going on with the tire set situation also. Either way, Reed has caught up to Berthaud with that crossover point. He's ready to try and pounce back for second.
Yeah, a very interesting strategy there from Mixer, by the way, to go 2 red stripe tyres. I guess that shows that Berthaud here in front of us isn't going to be stopping for a while if this one stop is going to be made. Or maybe it will be quite soon with the pressure starting to overcome him, really. Jacob Reed is crawling all over the back of him, down in towards turn 7. No move through here, but what's the exit like? It's not bad. They're both on the push to pass here down the back straight.
Might not matter. Berthaud just said he's coming down pit road this time by, and that's why I think this is going to be a bit more easier for Reed. There he goes with Berthaud this time coming down.
Weitzel's got to be careful. It's a pretty sharp entry here, although he's far enough back probably not to have been affected. He's got to stay to the right-hand side there, and Berthaud now comes down to pit lane. Now, we'll take an eager eye as to what tyres he puts on here, because nothing's on the table after after what we've just seen, but we are expecting primaries.
I mean, if you're putting on another set of red tires for the alternates, you're probably going to need to come down again, let's put it that way, because you'll probably get disqualified, because you will. That being said, we're past the halfway point. There is the standard primary tire, the hard, off and away, as he is now one of the 3 that have not crashed who have taken a pit stop, because Tool also has not left pit road.
And how long are the others now going to leave it before they join him having made a pit stop, join Berthaud having made a pit stop in this race? Berryman's probably above everything that's happening behind him at the moment. He will just run to his strategy no matter what's going on behind. The others may well react straight away. Reed and Weitzel are just coming past the pit lane now, but they go past the entrance. So at least 2 laps rather, for Berthaud to get up to speed on those new primaries before the guys he's battling with have come down pit lane.
Again, for those just tuning in, first point. It stayed dry. It's expected to stay dry. It's still 0% chance of rain. Peter Berryman's led most of the way, in fact, the entire way so far. All 25 laps for the 1 machine. Put on a dominating effort. But all that's while as time continues to go on and strategies are about to kick off. I have to remind you that Velocity Online Racing delivers professional iRacing broadcasts providing an authentic race day experience. Our custom IndyCar style overlay creates a clean and immersive viewing experience reminiscent of professional motorsports broadcasts. Streamed in 1440p 60 FPS production with expert commentary, Velocity Online Racing gives your series the presentation it deserves. Broadcast packages start for as low as €50 per hour. Contact Velocity Online Racing at gmail.com to learn more. The sun continuing to stand up. Edison Tool confirmed that their brake pedal grenaded on their sim racing rig. That's why they are out of the race.
That's always a fun thing to experience, that's for sure. Let's hope he wasn't travelling at too big a speed when he realised that. But anyway, into the pit lane once again, or I'd say for the first time, for Juan Luis Alfaro. The second stop only from anyone inside the top 13. And this surely is going to kick things off now, because he's a primary runner going on to the red stripe tyres with about exactly 20 laps to go here. Surely that's going to kick off some more stops from some of the others.
I think so here. It's going to get interesting, to say the very least, for a couple of the drivers. How will they go? Alfaro had a quick stop, only 9.6 seconds. Bertaux's was only 8.6, remember. 9.1 for Tavares. You also have Niemann taking the service also. So all this is to where some of the drivers are, in most cases, getting to that point where they have to think about how light of a car they're going to get. That's part of the strategy plan here.
Yeah, that will be being factored in as well, to be fair, and that will be an argument for going a bit longer. But going a bit shorter. Bertaux is now in traffic, so this is where things get more difficult as he passes the 10 of Harker. That wasn't too difficult, passing Joseph Harker, but we don't know, to be fair, how long he was spending behind the 10 there, so might have been a bit of time lost before that bit of vision there of him getting up to 7th. And in the meantime, the leader is catching as well, so if he has to slow down to get lapped, that's only going to hurt his chances further as well.
Going to have to tiptoe a little bit around this because going to have some dirty air or aero wash, if you will. And obviously, it's going to be really interesting in the future of racing in general to think about that too, because I want to turn attention to the new car coming up, Ewan. What's your opinion on it? We heard our colleague in the booth and Sébastien's thoughts on it. Fan in some aspects, fan in another. What are your thoughts on the car? I know Alex Palou said it's expected to break records.
Well, that will be, I guess, I don't say that will just be marketing, but, you know, I've said that now. Yeah, look, I'm always excited when something new is coming to these guys because, it doesn't actually matter where it is because as Peter Berryman comes into the pit lane, they get so well practiced and so well used to whatever they've got that actually a bit of change is good for everybody and good for the racing. So very excited for the first few weeks of racing, especially with as always with new stuff as Berryman gets a bit close to somebody on the exit of the pit lane there, because everyone goes in with a clean slate, a blank slate, and they have to learn everything all over again, and that's always the most exciting part of an era for me, if you like. But in this race, meantime, Peter Berryman's made his pit stop on his way back out again. Weitzel also making his pit stop on this lap. We'll see where he comes out in relation to Bertaux. He's still currently in 7th place.
So that leaves only Reed yet to pit as it becomes a traffic jam here with some of the lappers mixed in. That's Denmark down a lap. Cut through for Ulrich after 8 minutes of required repairs for his machine. Bertaux able to get through and hold back ahead of Weitzel. Meanwhile, you have Miniak battling. Skursky trying to battle themselves for 12 to 7, able to take away the spawn.
Yeah, so nice pass for 12th position, but again, not unexpected here. Miniak is on an out lap at the moment and tiptoeing a little bit. Again, who's spun coming out of the final corner? Joseph Harker. It's either spun or missed the pit lane or something's gone on. That was a strange line to be taking. Coming out of the final turn on the way towards, turn one. He just goes a bit wide and then trying to make it up on the exit. Spins and thankfully there was a big space on the left-hand side there for anybody who was close by to go past, but never ideal. As more defending here in towards turn 1, Denmark and Wilsteed going side. Is that Niminen maybe? I'm not sure. It's sorry, another lead lap. Weitzel going straight across the curbs as he was putting a lap on somebody there. He's gone straight across the curbs and his pressure that he had put on Bertaux is gone. Although that's another slow car in front and he nearly unlapped himself there, Denmark, compared to Weitzel. Goodness me, what a crazy exchange that was.
That was the Norwegian Mikkelsen, I think, trying to let everybody go at the probably an awkward time to say the very least. And of course, you want the lappers to be predictable. That was a little bit tricky. Reed is in. That gives Berryman back the lead. Reed did lead a lap, so Berryman won't get the full sweep, but the 2 machine will look to see where things go out compared to Bertaux. Off and away he goes with the difference of 7 laps for his tire sequence. Bertaux just now past the flag stand.
Yeah, he's going to stay in front here, Jacob Reed. Combination of the overcut and some good laps on the way in there, but also the slightly shorter pit stop, 1 second shorter than Bertaux, a second and a half shorter than Weitzel, who we see going over the curves here. He was always going to be in front of Weitzel because of this moment here. He was trying to battle with the lap car, just again missing his apex slightly and made a bit more of the corner than what Kirschenbauer did earlier, I suppose, but It's almost no better, really, than missing the chicane entirely. Just focusing in the mirrors just a little bit too much, and you don't want to be bouncing over the curves like that too often.
Definitely not, and that really sparked up more traffic jams galore for some of the battles going on in the circuit. But as we said, big jump for Reed over Berteau. Some of the others in the train like Wenzel now on their lonesome from that. And now everybody who's on the lead lap, there's not many of them, are spread apart. 51 seconds the spread between first and sixth are the only ones who have not been lapped by the Berryman, who can do anything if you put the Berryman in his can-do attitude.
Yeah, indeed. Just wondering how big the margin's going to be now at the end of this race, rather than whether he's going to win this race, and that's been the case for some time now. 14 laps to go, and those obviously go by very quickly here at Portland, especially when Berryman's on full song. Last time round, not the time just there, but last time round set the fastest lap of the race entirely, and to be fair, he's gone even quicker that time round as well. So another purple lap at the end of lap 33. So yeah, 27 seconds now the margin, only 6 on the lead lap, all lapped by Berryman. Smith is about to get the next of them and be put a lap down in 6th place, and then we'll only have 5 on the lead lap, and these are in dry conditions. Just one man absolutely destroying this field.
Yeah, there's no other way to put it here with him now on the alternate tire. He's turning personal best of the entire race, 58.2s for Peter Berryman up at the head of the field right now. And it's going to be pretty difficult for, depending on how this goes the rest of the week, how things are going to shake up here in the SOFs or in general the races on this circuit, because again, we talked about the weather unpredictability in terms of making sure you have multiple setups available. But as you can tell, when it's dry like this, if you have the right setup, you end up being like the 1 machine. The 2 now has a gap of 5 seconds. The 3 has a gap of 2 seconds. So 1, 2, 3 in your SOF are 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and indeed you can count number 4 in there as well, with Alexander Weitzel in the number 4 in 4th place. Indy Kirchenbauer annoyingly taking that out, because number 6 in 5th place, so it comes to a shuddering halt there. But it's remarkable the way that these guys have just got those tiny gaps now between them, as opposed to what it was earlier when they were absolutely nose to tail, and there was never more than a second really in the first part of this race between these guys. The pit stops have absolutely ripped this group apart. Jacob Reed's in-laps must have been scarily good, because he is a long way in front of Berteau and Weitzel. And yes, they've been caught up in traffic themselves, and the stop was a bit shorter for Reed, but it's been a great drive from him to get second, I think. Best of the rest, you could say. And with Berryman not a feature on those Euro SOF standings, and the others who are close by, some of the others who are close by, like Klemworth and Hildgaard, not here today in the Euro SOF race. Ty Keeler and Indy Kirchenbauer are going to be losing further points to Jacob Reed, who's extending that advantage to well over 20 points, perhaps towards 30 odd, heading into the final 4 races of the season.
It's going to become an interesting battle, and remember, the overall standings, it's a big conversation point, because Caleb Brashear is still the overall leader. But remember, you have to think there are drops for the official iRacing schedule as well. Only 4 is still that count, yes. So, in that regard, you're just going to have to start factoring the drop weeks after this week for the overall side, possibly. And remember, for Ty Aquila, he's the leader of Division 2, not Division 1, so he could still come away with the number 1 spot certificate by the end of the season.
Yeah, those standings could change beyond recognition over the next 4 weeks, really, as you say, with the drops that come in. But yeah, for the moment, for the drivers who are here, they're all doing a solid job championship-wise, like the likes of Jacob Reed for the Euro SOF standings, and Ty Keeler, the only one from those overall standings in the top 5 anyway, here today as well. It's a decently rated split, and yes, Peter Berryman is slightly bumping that up slightly, but that means there's more points available, and 7th place finish is no bad thing at all, I think, for Ty Keeler in terms of what he could have gotten out of tonight. I don't think he'll come away thinking that he could have got much more. Don't forget, he was on the grid in 11th place and is up to 7th here with this drive, so we'll probably be pretty pleased with that as Berryman completes another lap and sees just 10 laps to go.
10 more times around for today's coverage of the IndyCar Open Series Euro SOF, brought to you by Velocity Online Racing, the iRacing IndyCar community. Please consider supporting our fundraiser and donate on GoFundMe. That being said, I was about to say, this is a rare race when you think about it for Peter, actually, too, because we haven't even thought about that concept. He, with all his commitments in terms of whether with Apex, he's still on that side, on the SEP side, or his new team for sim racing events. This is only his 15th Formula race in general this year. He's on track to win his 10th, a 66% win percentage by the end of this race today.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, he's just showing again, isn't he, why he's such a top driver. And it's amazing to me sometimes the way that these drivers can just drop straight back in, and even though they are perhaps a little bit undercooked practice-wise, certainly not as well practiced as they would be for a World Championship level event, they can still come into a field and absolutely dominate, and nearly 30 seconds in front of the rest of the field. I'm somewhat curious as to how this race could have looked a bit different if the opening laps had gone a bit differently. If you remember, the battle for second place, which was 4 wide in towards turn 1, gave Berryman a 2-second lead by the time they were here on the opening lap, about just over halfway through the opening lap. So just make you wonder a little bit if they'd have followed into line behind Berryman a little bit more closely and got his slipstream early, and how long they maybe could have stayed with him. But I don't think they could have done anything to take this race away from him here today, because that's just the kind of day that he's on at the moment.
Absolutely. Some of the air close battles. Look at Denmark playing a bit defense. These drivers are battling for about 13th, but that 19 doesn't want to give this up. Niemann pushed back with that move, and Denmark gets an advantage of more than a second. He was reeled in by a second the last lap.
It's all changed there in a rather bizarre way. It was great run through the chicane, and look at the gap already for Denmark here. Looking back in 13th position. 2 drivers on the primaries going to the end of this race. Not too many of those around, although there is one still on the podium, because Alain Breteau is holding off Alexander Weitzel by just under a second at the moment, and that's, as I say, on primary tyres compared to the alternates that are really starting to come good, and there might well be a fight for this podium place just right at the end.
Possibly, especially with Breteau, if he can get at least to the positive, maybe, at least to get the second. But Wenzel absolutely is the part that is coming into play here. But here's the problem. Well, there's the problem. It's gone. Now Wenzel, with the traffic moving up to the side, looks to focus a little bit loose on some of these corner exits, noticing again still.
It wasn't so good, using a bit of push to pass seemingly to make up for that, actually. Coming down the back straight now towards the sweepers at the end of that, just revving out the top of 6th gear before going into the turns and into the final one, where he just misses the final apex slightly. Breteau is going to be feeling confident here that he can hold on for the rest of this race now, because again, that crossover point where the red stripe tyres don't actually hold much of an advantage over the primaries anymore, that will be that point will be getting pretty close now.
It's going to get interesting for this spot. Will Steed's had to come down pit road again. Something going on with the 21. He is gone, in fact. So one of the UK-based drivers is done for the day. That puts us down to 17 still running in the final 5 laps coming up.
Been a fairly high attrition rate here tonight, from 22 down to 17. And again, Portland just biting in a couple of places, as it so often does. That was a bit wide from Alfaro coming out of the final turn, and Joseph Harker looking to atone for his slight half spin out the final corner earlier on by getting back into 8th place. He looks to the outside. Alfaro very late on the brakes on the inside. Harker really slid on the outside there as well, and he's unable to get up to 8th.
Alfaro able to pull away. The Spaniard looking to try and hold back Harker. Harker gained a lot of momentum again, though, as they work their way to the near side of the racetrack. Up towards 6, towards 7, and that long stretch including turn 8 coming up. I think Harker might be quicker of the two of them. Look at him, how comfortable he is under the brakes.
I think so, and I think the only reason he's behind is because of that half spin I referenced at the final corner a few moments ago. And that maybe has created this fight, but Alfaro uses a bit of push to pass on the way down into the sweepers at the end of the straight there and manages to hang on as a result. But is that just papering over the cracks at the moment? I think Harker definitely is the quicker as they come out the final turn. That's a good exit from Alfaro. Seems to be fast in the right places at the moment.
Once again, getting the run. We're on the final 5 laps or so of this one. Berryman has the big advantage, but these drivers here bundled up for positions. Reed actually trying to pass by them. That broke up the battle. Harker had to let by Reed, and that might be the saving grace for Alfaro as long as the 5 doesn't lose too much time here.
Well, exactly. I think the job now for Harker is to get as close to Reed as possible and try and do exactly the same here. But Alfaro's going to try and hold on for as long as possible and actually might well lose out at the right moment here, because coming down the back straight, Reed's almost going to get through anyway, would have done. So actually this has worked out for Alfaro on this occasion, but there may well be more to come here as far as lap traffic for them to overtake or to overtake them. I mean, Prateau, to be fair, is about 10 seconds off of Reed, so in the next 4 laps I'm not sure that will happen, but there might be traffic up ahead. In any case, Harker has got to use it or just use his own speed right now. That traffic did not help him at all.
No, it did not really. And now the battle still keeps up a little bit for now. We run out of laps here. Toll and Wenzel stay within 1 second. This is the Aero close battle on the circuit. Left for night now, with Berryman already taking 3 laps to go. Alfaro looking a bit comfortable, but again, Harker send deeper in, able to close it up bit by bit. Might come down to the last lap for this battle.
Yeah, it might well do, but for that to happen, for it to be a last lap fight at all, Harker's got to be way closer than this. And I wonder if he's out of push to pass or something, or whether Alfaro's just got loads left, because in every straight at the moment, Alfaro is using it and Harker just isn't, and those statistics don't really show why, because Harker's got loads left, but he's just not using it at the moment. Alfaro, I think he's going overboard at this stage. He's burning through that quite quickly with still 3 laps to go.
Indeed, so they've been swiftly using a lot of that push to pass. Look at how many drivers are at zeros. Somebody could tell the 15 though, Tavares, hey, you could have used a bit of it today. You got him top 10, but 200 left out of a possible 200 seconds. It's a bit of a surprise in that one.
And the fact he's only 4 seconds off this fight, so could have been ahead of them, never mind with them. So yeah, something to remember in the future. Sometimes people forget to map it. I'd be surprised if that's the reason why. Here at this moment, as we go on board again with Harker, who just isn't really using any push to pass, even to stay close. They have to use it to actually make passes, just to stay close and get a bit of extra speed, because Alfaro's getting ever more ragged through the final turn, off a wide, and now Harker might strike.
Here we go, Harker to the left side, defensive on the right side, down the front straight away, Alfaro. Well deeper in the brakes for the 5. Can he make it stick? Yes, he can. Alfaro parks it. Able to hold on in the battle for 8th position as the leader comes through to set up for the final lap. Harker and Alfaro putting on a stellar fight.
That was very, very cautious from Harker there. What might be his best chance at overtaking for the remainder of this race. I'm not sure he's going to get a better one than that, but he just gave it up really by braking very, very early on the wrong line. The white flag shown to Peter Berryman. 1 lap to go. These guys have got a lap and a half to sort out this 8th place.
Final lap for the race leader in Berryman, who looks to go on a 5-race win streak in this series. Harker still looking to try and find a way to get around Alfaro. Oh, right now, difference is a few iRating. For Alfaro, it's making sure you stay in the positive if you care about your iRating. Here comes the run. Harker's on the button. Alfaro doesn't have anything to do for it. Here comes the 10 on the outside. Couldn't get the swoop. They go back into line as, this as well. Peter Berryman is through the final sector. As mentioned, He's ran a few road course races in this series. He's won his past 4. Peter Berryman wins in Portland.
Another great drive, and more than 30 seconds his winning margin as well. Never in doubt there for Peter Berryman throughout this race, and he's going to deserve every congratulations from everybody at the end of this one. Harker is not quite in the end done enough to get past. Some slightly poor attempts at cutbacks in the last few moments have meant that he's just not been able to get through here, and he's left a lot of push to pass on the table as well, so it'll be 9th place for him behind Alfaro.
Here we go, the run up to the line. Alfaro versus Harker. 8th position is where they'll run for. To the line with the button. It's still Alfaro up ahead of Harker. And that is one of your final battles. 27 one-thousandths of a second is your difference.
Amazing that Harker had that seemingly as a strategy to try and get through on the way out the final corner to the line, which I never would have thought of as even possible. But I guess Alfaro nearly used it all his push to pass, and Harker had one last burst to give in the end. The straight, or indeed where the start finish line is placed, was just a few metres too short for Harker in a pretty close finish.
It's a dominating drive, though. You have to say for some. It comes down to a photo finish for them. Used every bit of the button left to go after it. Peter Berryman. Looks like no burnouts. He'll do the gentleman's thing and go straight to the box.
Yeah, just another day at the office for him as far as this drive was concerned. Absolutely dominant from start to finish, as if he's done it plenty of times before. And of course he has. But yeah, this is... This was an exhibition again for today from Peter Berryman, who was won by more than 30 seconds tonight.
So let's take a look at the race results tonight. Again, these official because it's an iRacing official session. We'll say unofficial there, but if there's any protest, that could shuffle things. Peter Berryman and Jacob Reed in the podium spots along with Alan Berteau. Alexander Wentzel finishes down in 4th with Kirchenbauer down in the 5th spot. Smith, Quilla, Alfaro, Harker, De Vieras amongst those in your top 10. I don't think the 15 used any push to pass in the end at all.
No, indeed. I think so. I think that's the case. 11th place at the end tonight's gone to Fabian Jaroszewski, who finishes just in front of Meko Miniak. Then, who's 2 laps down, by the way. Chase Denmark also 2 laps down, about 4 seconds in front of Jussi Nimmonen. 3 laps down for Andre Buxi and Andreas Mikkelsen, with the non-finishers led by Sammy Woolsteed, Volker Ulrich, Edison Tool, Micah Mixer, Dakota Brothers and Roden Eftink, all not making it to the checkered flag here tonight.
We'll talk to Bond about the running order here tonight in this one as we await some of the drivers to discuss things here. Ewan, your opinions on a race like this tonight here at Portland. 5 cars on the lead lap, obviously, but for the most part, outside of the attrition that built up for what was about 6 drivers, relatively clean racing here in Portland.
It was clean racing, yeah, as far as side-by-side and everything is concerned, which is good. There were a couple of incidents and accidents, as you say. It's bound to happen around here. But, yeah, good racing overall. And sometimes I feel it's almost impossible to overtake around here. And thankfully that wasn't the case here today. There were a couple of chances in towards turn 1, a couple of chances towards the end of the lap there in the final sweeping corners as well. Although we saw Joseph Harker at the end there find it a little bit difficult. Yeah, a good race overall, but only one man who was going to win it in the end.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, to remind those watching along today, the Global IndyCar Challenge for 2026 just so happens to begin August 17th over at Zandvoort. Be sure to watch along because with open setup competition broadcasting on the Vort channel, this league is perfect for those wanting to bring their own setups. Races are held bi-weekly on Monday evenings, European hours at 7 p.m. UK time. So with that note, as here's the drivers may or may not make their way over this way. You talked about during the race that we have Montreal next on the docket. How do you feel about that track? I almost feel like it flows similarly to what we see at Portland.
It does a bit. I hesitate as to whether I should call Portland a street circuit as well, because it feels like one, sort of, but it isn't really. Certainly not in relation to Montreal, or indeed the one after that at the Chicago street circuit as well. Very interesting few weeks really in this season, I think, because of the three tracks that we have here being sort of quite tight and narrow. I always like Montreal, though, for open wheel racing, whether that be IndyCar or Formula One or whatever it is. It's always a good circuit for that kind of thing. So, yeah, looking forward to next week and the 33 laps around there.
Indeed, and we just so happen to get Peter Berryman lined up here. Peter, welcome back to the series. Welcome to Victory Lane for what's your 5th win in a row in this series on as many attempts. How do you feel with the dominant effort today?
Yeah, it was good fun. Thanks for inviting me, guys. A bit of a lonely one, but that wasn't really the goal. For me, it was just more having a bit of fun. I saw there was a bit of rain on the schedule as well, potentially, so I was hoping maybe there would be a bit of rain to spice it up a little bit. I don't really get to drive rain too often. I think most people are probably the same, so unfortunately, it was a bit of a dry race, but that in the end is pretty good preparation for the weekend with the IIS races coming up. So a little bit of preparation for that to try and dial the car in for those races.
Made good mention in terms of preparation for some of the various other series coming up here on the platform. But obviously, on a track like this, what are some of the main things that you had to adapt or make sure you were adjusting to make sure you kept the speed that you were expected of in a series like this, with it going from a lot of people expecting it to be pouring rain to there were disappointed people saying, oh, it's dry. Oh, no.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it is wet, like the lines are going to be the biggest thing. I think getting used to the grip isn't really that tricky, in all honesty, which kind of seems counterintuitive, but it's just understanding which lines are the best lines to take, because it's very easy to go slightly off the line, touch the rubbered line, and all of a sudden your grip completely goes. So the rain really isn't that scary until it is, which, yeah, especially at this track, some of the sections are super narrow. We can't really avoid the rubbered in line, which makes things very slippery. But even in the dry with this track, I think most of your lap time really comes to confidence in the first and last chicanes. We're launching the car over the curbs in the first chicane and the final chicane. There is so much lap time. If you can be brave and manage it, if things go wrong in there, it's going to be a big crash. So in the dry, it's pretty much just about confidence and sending the car on entries.
That in mind as well, want to ask you, you're a part of a new organization here too. How has it been now working with some of the drivers you worked with in the past with your new team?
Yeah, thanks for mentioning. It's good fun. I mean, things maybe aren't as, let's say, serious as previous teams have been on, but sometimes that's a bit nice. So it's a little bit different. All the drivers are sort of managing things themselves. It's a lot more relaxed, and I feel like we just work together a lot better. We're used to each other. We're a lot of us are friends off the track anyways, so it kind of made sense to just sort of start our own thing and see where it goes. And I think for the most part, things have been quite successful with the special events we've done, and hopefully we can chase that victory at some point by the end of the year.
Any other shout outs you'd like to give a mention to here today?
I'd just say thanks to you guys for the broadcast, obviously, and thanks for inviting me across for the interview. So, yeah, thanks very much.
Peter Berryman, congratulations on the win today.
Thanks, guys.
Peter Berryman, getting a chance to speak with him during post-race coverage here today. But on that note, it's just about time to say goodbye for today's action for Portland. Thank you for tuning in for today's action. Once again, for the IndyCar Open Series Euro SOF. As we talked about, we're at Montreal next week, where that's going to be an interesting one. It's considered a street circuit. That'll be an interesting Week 9 when we go racing there August the 11th for our Euro SOF coverage. Again, be sure to tune in from Quebec to find out who comes on top. It's time to say goodbye. For track cameras from trackcam22.com, for onboards by Julien Altena, for the broadcast producer Julien Altena, and my co-announcer Ewan O'Leary, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We hope you enjoyed today's coverage of Velocity Online Racing this evening from Portland. We'll see you next time from Montreal.